Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Raw Report. We've given in early. We've given the people what they want, the most requested interview by far on the Raw Report. Rather than build the suspense, we've said no, we're going to give the Lions faithful what they want. One of the greatest, if not the greatest Lions of all time. We're going to pump his tyres up. He's a very modest man, so we'll struggle to sit through this, but we'll give it a whirl. He's definitely the most talked about man on the Raw Report. He's Seymour through and through, a 4-time Seymour Best and Fairest winner, more than anyone in our history. One of only 7 Lions to win a league Best and Fairest, the Morrison Medal. He was drafted at pick 44 of the 1989 national draft to the Brisbane Bears, where he played 2 games at the top level, kicked a goal in his first. In 1990, that was, before he returns to Seymour in 1991 for a very famous year and a senior premiership. And 17 years later, at, I believe, the ripe old age of 40, he wins a reserves flag. He still looks like he could run out there today. A legend of our club. Great supporter of the Lions through Solomon Transport as well. He can get a parcel anywhere in the world within 24 hours. And a life member of the Seymour Football Netball Club. It's the great Jono Solomon. Welcome, Jono.
Thanks very much, Mitch, and what an unbelievable introduction. I don't know what to say. That was very well done, mate. I appreciate all you do for the club, and this Raw Report's a great initiative, and it's a pleasure to be here with you, mate.
Thank you, Jono. And all of that is 100% true, other than potentially the parcel delivery, but he's very good with his logistics. Now, Solomon last name, fairly well known across the community. There's plenty of Solomons getting around. Can you give us a little bit of a rundown of the family tree across town?
Yeah, well, look, the Solomons go back to the beginning. My great grandfather had a horse and cart in Seymour. I saw a photo of him pulling T model Fords out of the floods in '39. And we go right back to the beginning. It's great. My auntie Marg, she's been a bit crook, but every time I run into her, she tells me another story about the family, and I'm always eager to learn more. But yeah, the Solomons, yeah, they've been around from the start. Mum did the canteen down here for 13 years. I grew up here, and Dad's a life member as well. He was on the committee for many years, and yeah, look, it's just a great place to be and a great family club.
And the Solomon family's gone from the Model T Ford to the magical world of cryptocurrency trading. So they've definitely always been ahead of the times. Now, Chris Martin, he was also a part of that draft year of yours. He went in the preseason draft to Richmond, so contemporaries. He said, and I quote, we spoke about it with Chris, he said, Jono Sol, as a kid, was dog shit and played a lot of twos footy. He tells me you two sat on the bench in an under-18s grand final. What do you remember about those days? And we'll get to where you ended up after perhaps not the easiest start in football.
Yeah, well, look, that's true. I was on the bench at that particular stage, but it wasn't through lack of form. On the Thursday night before training, a mate came around to my place, and I was in the shower, and I jumped out of the shower to catch up with him before he took off, and I slipped on the tiles in the bathroom, and I split my knee open, and it required a few stitches. And then about the 5-minute mark of the first quarter in the grand final, I got tackled and ridden into the ground, and it split the knee open. So I had to come off and get that tended to. But look, I'm not by any means suggesting I was a good junior footballer. I spent every second year on the bench growing up. And yeah, it took me a few years to get going. I played a seconds grand final in '86, first year out of thirds. We won the flag that year, and I was a centre half forward back then, kicked a few goals, and yeah, it was just a great learning environment to sort of get me game down. I could always jump okay, but my kicking needed a bit of work there in the early days, and I eventually sorted that out. And yeah,
Well, a little slip in the shower. That's probably the tamest of your off-field injuries over the years, is it?
oh look,
No comment.
no comment. No, look,
Right. Well, we'll move on from there
Yeah.
because it is quite a meteoric rise from those early days. Chris Martin sort of fed us a bit of a white lie there, claiming you two were evenly matched in the footballing abilities, which we know is not true because from there, 1989, you win the Morrison Medal. So from playing reserves footy that you've spoken about to taking out the league best and fairest in a very strong GVL, what was a recipe for success? Is it all hard work? How'd you end up going from woe to go so quickly?
Oh, look, I was I wore long sleeves and I didn't give the umpires a hard time, so that might have helped. But look, I wouldn't say for a second I was above Marto. Marto was a superstar, and I listened to his podcast a couple of weeks ago, and it really hit home how vulnerable he sounded when he said, when he went down there to Hawthorn for the first time. I could really relate to that because you're kind of a fish out of water when you sort of you grew up, you're around your family, you're around your best mates you grew up with, you went through junior footy with, and then to be thrown into an environment where it's professionalism, it's high expectations, it's quite daunting. And yeah, it was a real pleasure to hear Marto and the way he spoke about that. And I've got nothing but respect for Chris. And he used to front up week in, week out on their best players, and he was a superstar for us. And yeah, we were lucky to have Chris.
Well, you've probably jumped ahead a little bit on where I was going to go, which is good. So we'll jump ahead with you. Uh, so you are drafted by the Brisbane Bears. Did that come out of the blue? Did you know? Were they talking to you, and how'd you find out? We know Chris had no idea till he looked at the paper the next day. What was that sort of like for you?
Well, I'd been lucky enough to be on North Melbourne's radar. So for that year, I was drafted for the second half of 1989, I think it was.
Yep.
Um, I trained with North on a Thursday night. So I'd go down there every Thursday night and train with the North Melbourne boys. And I loved it down there. They were all country boys. They were, Nathalia, and obviously there was Chris Rock and Anthony Stevens, and they all that really seemed like it was a great fit for me, and I was gonna be picked 50 something, and, I was lucky enough to win the Shep News Award, so I got a few grand, and my little brother was an exchange student in Florida at the time. So as soon as the money hit my bank account, I bought a ticket over to America and drove across the country. I didn't tell him I was coming. I drove across the country to Florida. I landed in LA, went to Florida, and knocked on his door. Obviously told his host parents I was coming, and gave him a bit of a surprise. And that was a great trip for me. I had the Seymour footy jumper on. I remember looking over the Grand Canyon, thinking, "How good's life?"
So did you get drafted while you're over there?
Yeah, I was over there
Right.
at the time, and
And
and then I rang Dad. I think Dad told me that I'd been picked up in the 30s by Brisbane. Yeah.
right. And what were you doing over there? Were you behaving or was it a real holiday?
Yeah, no, it was just, look, I just had some money and I'd always wanted to travel. So the opportunity presented itself. So I took off, didn't know much about what I was doing. I just they had these things called drive-away cars where a family will move across the country and they'll get a tourist to drive their car across. So it didn't cost you anything. You just had to pay the price of fuel and deliver the car to the company. So I did that. I had a Honda Prelude on the way over and a Jeep on the way back, and it was great. I had the time of my life. Went to Memphis, Tennessee, and Elvis's place, and I went to Las Vegas and the Grand Canyon and all that sort of stuff. It was just a great adventure. I was on my own and really enjoyed it.
Well, that sort of ruins what I was going to ask you next because I was going to say heading up to Brisbane must have been a big transition, but you're busy playing Turtle Man in Florida. So clearly travel wasn't too bad. But you did touch on moving away from friends and family and heading up to Brisbane. Is that Was that something you enjoyed, look forward to? What were the emotions around moving interstate away from everything you've known?
Oh, look, that it was a difficult transition for me. I hadn't been away. I hadn't played with any other club, and look, it was fine. Like what made it easier was there was a kid from Pakenham who was drafted in the same draft, Sean Hart, who won the Norm Smith Medal. He's a Shepparton boy, so I knew him, and there was another kid from Gippsland and a Wilson from Wangaratta, Darcy Wilson, who plays for St Kilda at the moment. I played John Law squad with his dad, Mick Wilson, and Joey is a couple of years younger, and he was drafted the same draft as me, and we all lived together in a house, so it made it a bit easier because we all had a similar background.
That's good. The more names you mention, hopefully the more clubs and ears this gets into. So very good thinking. How would you describe yourself as a player? You've got hands like dinner plates, and we've had some descriptions when we've spoken to a few people. Unfortunately, I was too young to see you play in the flesh, but they've focused not on just how much of a talented footballer you were or hard-working footballer, but also the presence you had on the ground. Was that something that just came naturally to you?
Oh, look, I think being a taller guy, I think the teammates kinda look at you to, kinda take a position of like, protection or whatever, but it wasn't really my go. I was more of a, I was more of a, like I was fit, so I'd do a bit extra during the week, and I was confident that in the last quarter I could run the game right out. So, we had Glenn Cole in the middle. We had we had our fair share of tough, great players, and look, I could take a mark. Oh, well, like I said, I wasn't the greatest kick, but it was about the mates. It was about the teammates. Like we had some unbelievable footballers, and if you've got a guy who's a bit taller with long sleeves on who doesn't give the umpires a hard time, I tend to get a lot of the raps. But we were very good across every line in that 91 side. There was years that after that they were a bit more challenging, but, yeah, look, I look back obviously with fondness to my whole footy career. I was just glad I was, brought up in this town, and, lucky enough, I still get to, watch the sons and the daughters of the town go through their sporting journeys, and it's just great watching people develop and get better and challenge themselves and accomplish some stuff at the end, hopefully.
Yeah, that's lovely and a fantastic sentiment, and we'll talk a bit about that a little bit more later as well. And um, end of 1990, what happens there? Do you finish up at Brisbane? Was there ever any doubt as to where you were going?
Oh, no, look, I'd, been invited to the, presentation night for Seymour that once I got when I came back for the holidays, and I knew that they'd had big plans for '91. Brendan Hall was our president. They'd got Robin White lined up, and they were getting Darren Comey back and, Dick Martin, who's a champion, and, they were gonna try to make it a local, all the best local players they could get. Well, all of us really that had played footy and were old enough to play, weren't too old to play. They assembled a ripper side, and we were blessed that everything just fell into place for that year, and we did play Tawny in the first game here, and we beat them by about 5 or 6 goals, and I thought that we'd face more difficult opponents, but it turned out they were pretty good. We just played a really good game that first game, but Tawny, like that grand final, that was never won until the siren went.
Talk to us about that grand final. Special golden generation, I guess you could call it, of Seymour legends, as you've touched on. What was the big day in, I suppose, September like?
Oh, look, it was phenomenal. It was just one of the greatest memories I have of my sporting life. I remember thinking after the game, we've done something really good today. This is really, really good, and everybody had a smile on their face. All the parents, all the girlfriends, all the families. It was just a great situation, and yeah, and you look back and you're just so grateful, because you can play. Like I played 200 games, 200 senior games for Seymour, and one of them was a flag. So and there's other been champion footballers that haven't played, like Glenn's son Jason. Like he's captained Victoria Country, been an absolute superstar for the Seymour Footy Club, and he never got to play in a winning flag in the seniors. So you got to be very, very lucky. And while you're playing, you have to do everything you can to get the best out of yourselves and the best out of your teammates. So you give yourself that opportunity because they're very difficult to get.
And you hope to see another one soon from the
Well,
sidelines?
absolutely. Things are lining up pretty well. Like we just like it's just great to be part of a team that on your day, if everybody plays well and everything goes right, you're a chance. And if you can put a team like that together, well, then, it's in the lap of the gods or it's in the lap of the lads, and hopefully they can grab that opportunity. But I think it's a different year when you know that if everybody plays to their best, to their ability, that that you could beat anybody. Yeah.
Mhm. As we look quite wistfully at the senior team lineup at the moment, there's some very good footballers in there. So hopefully everyone sticks together and we can see that success return. 1990s, you've touched on a few of those characters, and we've said that's a bit of a golden era. Can you tell us a little bit about some of those people who graced the football club throughout that era and any stories you've got to share about them?
Oh, no, look, we like I said, we were just blessed. We had just some great guys, and people look at that era and think, "Oh my God, have a look at the names in that side." But growing up here, like I watched the eight, the '76 grand finals. I think I was 9, and the '77, and and the '80s grand finals. And I remember like the Eddie Shields, the Tony Barnes, the absolute champions that had played at this club, and to be called the greatest line, one of the greatest lines, or in that conversation, just seems embarrassing because, when you're a kid, like they were all superstars, every senior player when I was a kid growing up, and yeah. So look, I think that footy's a game where you got to be looking forward. You got to be thinking about now and what's in front of us. And I was, blessed that I had a time, but my time is long, long gone, and I'm just happy to be part of the club now, and hopefully I can play a role and get behind Ben and the boys, and we can get them a result. That they to get them to that stage where they believe if they all play to their ability and they're all trying to improve their game, that they will have a sniff this year. That'd be fantastic.
And you have been so loyal to the club throughout your life, and I guess going through a bit of a lean period makes the success all that much more sweeter. And that was something we experienced here throughout the later part of the 90s. There were some difficult days out, I believe. And what was it like to see the club pull through that and then pull off the three-peat and have some of those incredible years through the mid-2000s after such a difficult run?
Yeah, look, that was absolutely sensational, and you've got to hand it to Coxie, who was the president at that time, and he knew to go and get Stevie Daniels, and they assembled a team that was just a phenomenal outfit. I remember watching blokes like Sard and Lukey Stevenson and Scanlon and these blokes, and they were just unbelievable team. Uh, Peter O'Keefe's son, Matty, he was a absolute champion. Like, I'm glad I never had to play against him because he was an animal. He was a absolute brilliant footballer, great leader. Yeah, they just had an awesome era. But I'll go back to earlier to that photo I sent you. That was taken.
The 91 flag
No,
singing? Nope.
no, that was the year I coached.
Right.
That was the year I coached, and we'd just beaten Euroa to get off the bottom. So, that's why I was singing with such gusto, because I was very, very excited not to be a wooden spoon coach, and yeah, so that was. But that's footy. You can't have the glory without the heartbreak, and you've got to go through the whole set of emotions before you even get a shot at it. And it's not there's not failure years, there's lesson years, and we've had plenty of lessons over the journey.
And always enjoyed beating Euroa, I imagine.
Always enjoy beating Euroa.
Now, in that period, quite successful. Were there ever any incidents with the Premiership Cup? Did it ever
Look, there was a
go
lot of
on some
rumours.
journeys or
Look, there was I think someone slipped or there's something happened somewhere along the line. But Yeah, no, look, there's been some fun and games over the journey. There's way worse than that, I could tell you. But I will tell you a story while I've got the opportunity about probably my favourite year of footy was the year after we'd won the flag. Well, obviously that was a highlight, but I coached the thirds, and
Oh,
Shane Shotner was one of the boys, and we had a great group, and we we fronted up in our first game, and we got beaten by 16 goals by Kai Abram. Gary Lyons' old man Peter was their coach, and I thought, well, I'm for a long year here. I'm going to learn some lessons. But as it turns out, we rallied and we improved over the course of the year, and we beat Kai Abram to make the granny. So that was probably the most satisfied, happy, fulfilling kind of result I had over a course of a year at the footy club. I was still playing, obviously, and those boys just applied themselves, and every single one of them improved. And it really, as a coach, I couldn't have been happier that year.
I didn't even delve into the coaching records, but that is an interesting insight, and I'm sure half out of respect and fear, those thirds boys would have done exactly what you taught them, without a doubt. And that comes to discipline. That's another question that's been submitted from the crowd. Were you ever suspended for time wasting?
Oh, look, there was a game against St Kilda. Nicky Winmar had been dropped, so I got to watch him in full flight. That was amazing down at Moorabbin, and there was at the end of the quarter, the siren apparently went. I didn't hear it, and I had a shot for goal, and I kicked it, and it went over the. Well, it wasn't a very far kick. I don't know how it went so far, but anyway, I must have been very close to the goal line. And the umpire told me that that he'd told me the quarter, that I didn't have to kick it or so. I don't know what happened, but anyway, I got reported for time wasting, and I was rapt about that because I got to stay down in Victoria for an extra few days until the tribunal was on. So I'd come up and saw the lads. So yeah, that was one of the happenings that happened. But yeah, it suited me down to the ground because I got to come up to the Seymour Footy Club and see me boys.
It's a great trivia question, that one. And you mentioned Paul Cox before. Congratulations to Max McLean and Rosie O'Sullivan, who got married last week, and the great Coxie was floating around there, and he's pretty keen for a Raw Report berth, so we might just hold him out as long as we can. He's getting a bit excited, is Coxie. Now, that successful period, it's bookended by a reserves premiership in 2008. We've touched on it. You're looking quite fearsome in the team photo. I believe we've done the maths right, and you were 40, and you still do look like you're ready to rock and roll, and I'm sure we'll be short when the twos head over to Mansfield or somewhere chilly. What was that like, winning another premiership at that age? Must have enjoyed it, I presume.
Oh, fantastic! Yeah. Look, I was coming towards the end, and I'm not sure if I played in one. I think I played in 3 seconds flags actually, because I remember Crockett coached one year. That was the first one. That was 86, and then there was the guy who was Steve Daniels' buddy, and there was one for Zotts, I think. So yeah, look, I don't know. I wasn't playing full time. Obviously, I was just sort of in and out and just sort of helping out, and I managed to qualify and got the call up. So yeah, no, look, it was always great to get a flag for the mighty Seymour Lions, but no, look, you take them if you can get them, those premierships, because they're hard to get. Yeah, very, very, very satisfying.
Must have a loaded trophy cabinet if you forget how many flags you've won. What a good problem to have. Now, modern day times, you're still here, obviously. You're in your polo. You're as passionate as they come still. Can you tell us a little bit about your involvement with the club? You're on the committee. I know you love your long committee meetings, particular favourite of yours. Still a generous sponsor of the club, and last year you even had the very unenviable job of senior team manager, which I know you enjoyed messing around with the paperwork all season. So you're here to stay forever then, aren't you?
Oh, look, I don't know about that. You never know what's down the track, Mitch, but I must thank you for that year. You spoon-fed me all my roles and you gave me the paperwork all in a line so I couldn't mess it up, but I might have messed it up a few times. But yeah, look, it's just great to be around the boys, and around the coaching staff and just, to be close to it because there's so much that goes on and I love it. I love it when, young men are, doing their best to be better and to improve. And it's just a pleasure to watch them go from, junior footballers to thirds into seniors, and then, even in a few of them's cases, down to have a crack at the VFL. And then, like as it is with Quiggy and Meso and Jack Paris, we get those boys back this year, and it makes us all the stronger for that. And Dylan Cook as well. I'm really excited about watching Dylan this year. He's been super unlucky. That game he played in the thirds when he got injured and he fought on valiantly, nearly won it off his own boot in the end, but unfortunately we couldn't quite get there. And, even, young Huey Jones, he's been out injured and he's a quality footballer. I'm looking forward to him running around this year. So, look, I think we've got a lot to be excited about here at Seymour. And, yeah, I hope to be close to the action.
What does success look like then this year? You're going to put any metric on it, or
Oh, look, like I said, I think if we can assemble a side and they believe on their day they can beat anybody in the league, I think that's all you can ask for. It's, Ben can get them so far, but it's up to every one of those boys to not um, squander the opportunity they've been given, and make sure they make the right decisions when they're there to be made, and grab the opportunity with both hands.
lovely? That's good. You haven't fallen into a trap of any season predictions.
I think we'll
Before
be there towards the end. No worry about.
hopefully,
Yeah,
definitely at the point.
I think we'll be still running around in September. Hopefully,
That's what we want to hear.
yeah.
Before we get into those make or break friendship questions that are coming that you are very excited or nervous about, what does the club mean to you after all these years? Is that something you can put into words, or?
Oh, look, I grew up here. Me and my brother used to do the scoreboard before the digital revolution. We used to flip over these numbers, and we'd watch the whole three games, the pair of us. And yeah, look, and then like I said, Mum did the kiosk, and we grew up here, and I got to see generations and generations of people play for the mighty Lions. And there's a couple of reunions this year, the '76 and the '86, and I look forward to seeing the fellas again that were mighty Lions. And yeah, that I just like I said, it's great to have the reunions because the young fellas that are running around representing the club at the moment, they get a feel that there's a history to the place, and it's their time at the coalface, and they're representing their families and their families, fathers and grandfathers and mothers and everybody. And when it's their turn to put their hand up, let's hope they're there to do that because yeah, this is it's a very short life, a football life, and there's only so many pages you get to fill out in your footy book. It's not a long novel by any means. Some people get 15 or 16 if they're lucky. Some only get a few. So we just hope that they can make every post a winner, and and be there towards the end of the year.
Another very selfless response. So now we're going to put you on the spot
Here we go.
with your rapid fire
Righto.
questions. Your favourite line around the club, favourite Seymour Football Netball Club personality. Who do you see and either giggle or love, or who makes you want to cry even?
Oh, look, Mitch, you'd have to be up there
Ah,
with all the work you do around the place. But look, I love Benny. Like
yeah,
Benny's a superstar. And people forget how good he was. Like he was an unbelievable footballer. And I think he played in our flag, and I think he played again in one of those three
yeah.
pits. So like he's been bookended his career with a couple of flags, and his service to the club. Like I mean, like I said, I coached that year, and I was jumping out of my skin to get off the bottom of the ladder because you're so exposed and so like it's your whole everything when when you're coaching the town, and Ben's done it, I think, longer than anybody.
Mm.
So, for what the guy puts in, I know he's ably supported by Jack. Jack's doing an unbelievable job. I'm a big fan of his, and, yeah, look, I just hope that the stars can align this year and we can give Ben the result he deserves.
And still in pristine condition, he does deserve all the success we can give him. Best player you've played with over your footballing
Best
career?
player? Well, look, I'd have to say a few. Paul Cox comes to mind. I was lucky enough to one night play for Country Vic, and Coxie was there. I got a late call up because their ruckman got dropped into the seconds in his hometown. So I got this late. I trained with them for years, but I never got a Guernsey. This one night we're down. It was the night that Ablett and Lockett and Dunstall all played together on the MCG, and me and Cox were down there. I think I launched a career of a forward that night. I think I had 9 tipped on me.
Oh, ouch.
But Paul Cox, he was BOG. He was a superstar, and like all he's done with his president stuff and everything else, he was just a phenomenal footballer. Special mention to Dylan Cook's dad, Darren Cook. People forget how good he was. He was an absolute superstar. Mark Salakoski was a superstar. But I did love Matt and Glenn and me and Coxie in the middle together. That was a very formidable centre combination. But yeah, I'd say Coxie.
Coxie. Righto, we'll have to get him on. Best player you've played against? You would have come up against some stars over the years.
Well, I did play on Silvani and Craig Kelly.
That'll probably do
I
it.
got a bit of a lesson there. But I forget that I saw that question, and there was this blonde-headed guy for Echuca, and he was about my height, but he was this unbelievable athlete. And every time, early days I'd come up against Doc Kenner, but I'd come up against this guy a lot, and I could not beat him for the life of me. And then it was like we played in a Country Vic championship for Golden Valley versus the Hampton League, and he'd gone to Hampton League, and I ended up lining up on him, and I couldn't
Followed
get
you
near
around.
it. Yeah, I couldn't get near it. So I don't know the guy's name, but I'd give him a special mention as well. Yeah.
I'm sure you weren't one to really study the form guide. I think just get out there and get at him. Best line you've ever seen? You've said Coxie's the best player you played with, but any other honourable mentions?
Oh, like I said, Matty O'Keefe, Jason Cole, Glenn Cole. I love Salah, I love Cookie. Luke Stevenson, he was a special talent. Sard was a superstar. But, Eddie Shields, Tony Barnes, those blokes were unbelievable. Ray Stone, Phil Waite, Phil Waite, I don't know if you know the Waites, Tony that looks after us now. Well, his brother Phil, he was an absolute superstar. Got a knock on the head, got an aneurysm, and didn't play after about 20-something, 22 or 23. He was unbelievable. Rick Hagar, Veronica's husband, was an absolute superstar. So look, because I've been around the club so long, it's hard to pick one out. But I've been lucky enough to see so many great Seymour Lions over the journey.
It's the best trip down memory lane we've had so far. Favourite Lions running around at the moment?
Oh, this is a difficult one. Like I said, I love Dill. I hope, he's been very unlucky. I hope he can get a bit of luck this year and get through the year. I love Nugget. Nugget's a little ripper. Little Jack Perris, he's just won a flag. I'm looking forward to seeing him go around again. It's hard to pick one. Really looking forward to Huey Jane. He's been super unlucky as well. But, geez, I wish the boys the best, Really exciting times for the Seymour Lions. I'll tell you what's the question? Who's the best going around? Probably I'll have to give a sentimental super vote to Seamus. Seamus, I love Seamus. He's just a lion through and through. He fights like a absolute animal every time he's out there, and he gives 110%. So, yeah, I have to give Seamus a special mention.
Another club stalwart. Well done, Shamo. Any final message before we wrap up for the Lions faithful?
Well, I'd just like to remind everybody to come along and get your memberships and just be part of this wonderful club. Like, we've got a real opportunity this year. The netballers are flying, footballers are flying, the thirds are flying. We just need to get everybody down here, get behind all the teams, and let's hope that they can get themselves to a level where we can get Benny and the boys the success that they deserve so very much. Thank you so much, Mitch.
Beauty. Thank you very much, Jono. And we'll wrap it up there. And what a wonderful interview that was. And Jono, truly a living legend of the football club. And I know growing up around here, everyone looked up to Jono and heard plenty of Jono's stories, both on and off field. And we're absolutely delighted that he's been such a big part of our club for so long. We're truly blessed to have the great Jono wearing that lion emblem still on his chest today. So thank you very much. We're nearing round one. It's creeping up. So as Jono said, make sure you get your memberships. Make sure you're around the club. Thursday nights on the bar will be open. So if you're not playing, come down and enjoy some refreshments. We'll have one more interview. We're hoping to lock down the great Ben Davey before the start of the season. But thank you very much for listening to the Raw Report. Don't forget to subscribe and go Lions.